excited about today. When you look at the gamut of speakers, you're going to get a sense of the changes that are coming, the trends, the shocks, and the opportunities, but hopefully leave you with a toolkit for how to make change happen. And on that topic, it's my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker who's going to talk about these trends. But she is an amazing woman in her own right, not just as a commentator. Kylie Davis is not just the president of this movement that we're a part of, but another movement that many of us are part of, RISE, the industry's body to raise issues of mental health and wellness. She is someone who began as a journalist, a top-performing journalist, while she was still a teenager, an award-winning journalist back in the day. Worked for The Australian, worked for Fairfax, worked for many different companies. And she was one of the people who was able to take journalism from something that had no commercial basis to something which was a concept that could do social good and commercial good as well. In fact, at Domain, we pretty much have her to thank for how we do our business. We and many other companies in this space are providing great content, great journalism, which in turn builds customer loyalty and then is able to be commercialized in different ways. So she pioneered the top, well, I would say all of the top journalism companies and media channels in Australia as they are today. She has spent a bunch of time in CoreLogic, like many of you have, building the data sources and the trends that we see. And the last few years has been an amazing blessing to companies up and coming, whether you're the Proptechs or folks trying to operate into mental health and wellness space. Would you please join me in welcoming the president of the Proptech Association, Kylie Davis.
This is a fantastic quote that I heard today, heard this year at the REB conference. There's nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to lead the introduction of a new order of things. Because the innovator has for enemies all of those who have done well under the old conditions and lukewarm defenders in those who may do well under the new. Does anyone know who said this? Yes, well done. Thanks for the intellects in the audience. Ruined my punchline. But this was said by Niccolo Machiavelli back in 1513. And I love it as a quote for us as change makers because it tells us that the more things change, the more they stay the same. And that is, and humans by default, these are issues that we've been grappling with. So I know there's a lot of you in the audience that feel like, oh my gosh, this is new, this feels hard. So look, with all change comes challenge. And so what are the challenges that not in 1513, but in 2024, what are we facing? We have some huge challenges ahead of us as a country that we can impact as Proptechs. We need to be creating 1.2 million homes in 5 years. This is what the federal government has committed us to, which means we need to be building 240,000 homes per annum. And this impacts us whether we're building PropTech for real estate agents or whether we're building for property investors. It doesn't matter. These are figures that impact all of us. However, our highest recorded output on new properties being built is 217,000 per annum. That was when we were absolutely firing and smashing it. It was before construction costs went up 30%. That's the best we've ever done. So our shortfall over 5 years, I started to extrapolate out some of these numbers, is that we are looking at least a 250,000 shortfall, even if we produce properties to the max that we can. And we can't. Now, the cost of a new home to build, according to the ABS, 2022 numbers, I know there's a few agents in this room, I think I saw Julian Capini here before, 473,000 is what the ABS says it costs to build a new home from scratch. That's pretty cheap, and I don't know any builders that could actually do it for that, unless you're literally building a fold-out house. So I rounded that number up to about 500,000, give or take. And the median price of dwellings in capital cities is 895,429. I'm pretty sure that's a CoreLogic number, which was the last one. But it's a dwelling, which is that nothing thing, which is not a house, not an apartment. It's the median number between all of them. So this is our challenge. These are the numbers that underpin the challenge that we currently face. And what are the costs of the way that we currently conduct real estate, construction, design, building, in all of the industries that we serve as technology providers? Well, we're really slow. It takes us 107 days on average across Australia for a building approval. It takes 12 months at the time that I pulled these numbers together a couple of months ago to build a home. But at the moment, I understand that that's up around 18 months. That's a long time to have finance for a hole in the ground. There's very high wastage. 44% of the waste sitting inside our tips is building material. High risk builders enter admin at twice the rate of other industries. And there's a high cost. There's a 0.39% of every construction contract is spent on defects. That equals about 18 grand per property that we're building. And what we've heard in the last month or so is that builders are basically telling us, especially the big end of town, are telling us that big apartment blocks that we have been told are going, the build to rent, the whole big apartment blocks that are going to house Australia are actually no longer viable, except for at the very top end of the market. There is something very, very broken in here. These are the costs. And expensive. A house now across the median house price is now 1.11 million. We're producing the cost of that waste, that 44% of waste is around 2.8 billion, and defects are costing us $18,000 per new home. Now, in properties that are costing us over 800,000 to own, even 20 grand would make an improvement. And if we did that across all of those new homes, that's $4.4 billion bill. So the way that we're doing things is broken, and the people in this room are the ones that are coming up with the answers to that. And we need to start articulating the data around what things are costing. Now, this has a human impact. There's 7.5 times the annual income at the moment to buy a home, to buy a property for first home buyers. That's in past generations, that was around 3.5, so it's more than doubled. Stamp duty, the 3 to 4%, which is the most expensive level of stamp duty you can pay, is actually paid by everyone. Bracket creepers caught us all, and that's kind of the average, that we're all paying that top level of stamp duty because governments haven't kept up. However, it has funded some fantastic roads in Sydney, so thanks very much. 30% of properties are bought by first home buyers. At the moment, they're quite strong again because state governments have made it very unattractive to be an investor, especially in Melbourne and especially in Victoria and Queensland. It's taking at 20% of your money being saved. It's taking first home buyers 5.6 years to save for a deposit. We've seen that. I've got a 30% increase in construction costs. Rents have grown on average across the country by 8.4%. And so what we're seeing in our property sector is that there is a $6 trillion generational transfer of wealth coming. You are not necessarily rich if you have a hell of a lot of money. You are rich if you are lucky enough to have the asset that you bought before the current property boom that has been going on for like the last 20 years. And basically the plan for most first home buyers is actually to wait for their parent to buy the property and then wait for their parents to die so that their retirement, that their inheritance pays off the mortgage. We are moving into, like countries like Japan, into generational home ownership. And it takes 5 years to make meaningful progress. We've been told we've got 5 years to fix this. This is our timeline. The clock starts now. And with the greatest respect and love to the industries that we work for, these are not the guys that are going to fix it for us. It's the people in this room that are going to fix these problems and address these challenges and have this impact. Now, this is the 2023 Proptech map, and it's one of my great sadnesses that this year that we didn't get to build one for this year. But hello to my team in the Philippines and to Ken and Sent and KC. Because Ken and I stayed up till quite late last night cutting the data inside the Proptech database, association database, and cleaning it up. We found 544 Proptechs in there at the moment that we know are current. Now, I'm going to put about a 10% error of margin on this, so there's around 500. Back in 2023, we counted 478. Now, the fastest way to find a new Proptech is to publish a map like this and then find out who you missed. Because if you put that on LinkedIn, everyone will be in your messaging. So we will be pulling that together over the summer break. We feel like we've done a lot of work on the cleaning up that data. So, and we're finding now, like we have a very broad church that Proptech covers. And I want us to understand like how we all fit, like we all have our little silos that we fit in, whether we're in CRMs or residential property or in the real estate space or in new land bills or in data or AI. It's a big spread, but what we can see is that there are different levels of adoption and acceptance across them. And we can see from the new ones, the new ones which are planning and regulation, where there's some extraordinary stuff happening, which we're going to hear about today, and construction and materials and logistics. These are the blockers. And the fact that they are blockers are things that should concern and motivate all of us, because the sooner we can get these guys functioning properly, the data starts to flow the whole way across the ecosystem, across everything we're doing. And this is where the big blocks are. Construction, I know there's not a huge number of building proptechs here today, but those who are in that space, automation of warehousing and manufacturing and logistics has been a thing for 20 years. It literally hits a brick wall when it comes to construction. Less than 3% of residential properties are prefabbed. Men with bricks turn up and hammers and shovels turn up to build our property. And they've been doing that since 1815. Maybe 2024 is the year for us to start to really motivate that to change. But what we can see from that, from the PropTech map and from that PropTech universe, is that it's Jason summed it up the best when he said, it's not an execution problem, it's an execution problem. It's not an idea problem. We have heaps of ideas how to fix this. How do we actually make that rubber hit the road of the idea actually become the execution? And this is where it starts to come down to us. Because we are, as a society, as a whole, across all tech, at this major inflection point. Human processes cannot keep up with the levels of expectation that we have around what our customer experience is going to be. So we all, Uber, John, it's your fault. Uber, Google, all of the big techs have created an expectation in all of our minds and in our customers' minds as to what good customer experience looks like. It looks not just personalised, but individualised to me. It looks instantaneous, it looks transparent, it looks fair, it looks delivered at a great cost. And in the industries that we're serving, that are hanging on to their manual systems, they cannot deliver that without throwing more people at it. And by throwing more people at it, they add more cost to their business. So then they try to take costs out of their business and they kill the service. So human processes cannot keep up. And we're seeing a really high impact of that in terms of mental health. There's too many data, there's still too many data and functional silos. So things are happening inside their little silo. We're not seeing that flow of data happening backwards and forwards. It's still too early for AI to take over, but maybe this time next year that won't be the case anymore, because, by God, this stuff's going fast. And what we're seeing is AI appearing in everything, not one big bot to cure them all. And what we're finding most, though, and what I hear from talking to you all the most, is that we're dealing with PropTech, with this whole idea in this space where there's AI, things to learn, customers to serve, expectations to meet, fewer people to do it, and data that doesn't quite behave the way that you want it to, is that it's stressing out our clients and they feel too overwhelmed to learn the thing that will actually help them the most. And so I think this is where the real rubber hits the road around how do we make change happen? We have to deal with this stress. Increased awareness also increases scrutiny of us as an industry. And in this past 12 months, we have had a huge amount of scrutiny on us. We are seeing new government regulations specifically impacting PropTech. We've seen that in New South Wales in the property management space. We should all, regardless of what section you're in, watch this very closely. And we need to motivate as an industry to start to address it, which we've been trying to do at the association. With greater awareness of data security, with breaches in data security, becomes greater suspicion, and that impacts all of us. It is very hard to have conversations with clients at the moment about data. We need to get better at the language of that. Our biggest challenge comes from bridging the fragmentation. So everybody's using all sorts of different bits and pieces. How many dashboards does a girl need on her computer? How many screens does a girl need on her desk to try and do her day-to-day job? Apparently 3 is still not enough. 56 tabs open, no wonder my brain's tired. And big tech, we've seen a shift. Big tech starting to be seen in some sectors as bad actors. And that impacts on us, because even though we are not necessarily big tech, we are seen as tech. And so we need to be mindful of this and start to be dealing with it. So we risk being tarred with the same brush. And I'm very conscious of this from some of the conversations I've had that have alarmed me considerably. We are different to big tech in that the majority of industries in our sector have come from industry and care passionately about it and want to improve it. We haven't gone in as boffins just to try and, try some tech thing. But that's not the lens that we're seen through. What we need to do, therefore, is we need to make change feel safe, and we need to make change feel familiar. And there is deep neuroscience behind why this is so important. We need to, now I know Ian Campbell's not here yet, and when he's here, let's all sing happy birthday because it's his birthday today and he really hates that. He mentioned this to me in a podcast, which was getting our clients to adopt that so many of his past clients had told him that they were feeling that tech now was blunt force trauma, or Proptech was blunt force trauma being impacted upon them. This model that we have of every single Proptech in the room contacting every single real estate agency in the room and trying to get them to buy their stuff is really overwhelming all of our clients. It can no longer be blunt force trauma. And so I think we are at an inflection point as an industry where it's less about computer science and it's more about neuroscience. We actually need to start to really get our brains behind how our clients are thinking and how they're feeling and start to work on that, because the tech is hygiene. I do have a slide button that says that. Modern life, and this is why, because modern life's got our brains in a constant stress response. I don't know, I know that last night I woke up like my normal 3 a.m. If anyone's awake at 3 a.m, you can always send me a text, I'll be there. But, especially in lead up to events like this, that's a cortisol jag, right? There's too much cortisol in my system. But our brains are hardwired risk mitigation devices. They will do anything to keep us safe. They are the last part of our body to shut down when we leave our mortal coil. They will divert resources from anywhere in our body to keep us to keep functioning, and they will do anything to keep us safe. Here's the really cool thing that I've learned through my time at Rise, though. Our brains define safety by what feels familiar, not by what is logically safe. So you can have the most perfect data-based argument about what makes sense. But if that doesn't feel safe to your client, they will not go there. And this is the gap that we need to bridge as an industry. We need to start nudging people towards it. It's more safe to do it our way than it is to do it the way you've always done it, because it's exhausting your people. You're not getting the job done. It's costing your business too much. We need to move on. Because sometimes familiar behaviour is both stupid and risky. It's why we reach for a glass of wine at the end of the day instead of going for a walk around the block. It's why we all love chocolate. It's why at 10 o'clock at night we actually flick onto Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, because we're searching for that last little cortisol distraction, not realising that's going to wake us up at 3. So Gloria Steinem had a fantastic quote. I've got a couple of fantastic quotes as this. And I love this one, because the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. And John's actually already beaten me to that, but the first rule of change management is actually that we need to change inside ourselves. So we need to stop being a tech industry around tech and start making it about our people, because our tech is only as good as the people in our teams. We can't have great conversations in PropTech if we don't have great conversations and great cultures inside our team. And so we're moving away from being an industry that's just focused on getting the app out or getting the tech developed to actually being, how do we actually scale and grow our customer care, our culture in our teams? How do we actually make sure we are fantastic places to work that are exciting but are also supportive and nurturing? And how do we not sprint people on marathons so that they drop dead at the end of it? So we need to make our workplaces psychologically safe for the whole team, make sure everybody's contributing. Normalise conversations about mental wellness. You cannot run a sprint as a marathon. You cannot do that all the time. We need to have KPIs that support connection, not just output. We are human beings, not human doings, and we forget that often in tech. because it's really easy just to code a bit longer. So we need to work in sprints, and then at the end of those sprints, schedule recovery time and celebration time and recognition time of what we've just done as a sprint. And we need to hold ourselves as leaders in that space and everyone to account. And our words really matter. If I look at all of the PropTech awards from this year, the winners were those who articulated their value beautifully. They absolutely had it nailed. They didn't give us a list of features and all of the things that those features did. They understood who they were. Tech is hygiene, but soft skills are coming out as superpowers. So the PropTechs that I see in the association that are absolutely smashing it for 6 are those that understand this and have their soft skills absolutely at front and centre. And here's a question I have for all of you, because we can't see this always on your websites when we're scraping to work out what you do. What problem do you solve, really? Because we see a lot of list of features about what you do, but but you're asking constantly your clients to identify from those features a problem that they might have. And we need to get really crystal clear about what our problems are that we're solving. And we need to demonstrate the cost of the status quo with data. So what is the cost of not changing? We also need to start to get client alignment based on values. And yes, money is a value, but if money is the only thing, then maybe we also, values can be much broader than that. And we need to start to redefine risk. And we need to do this as an industry, because the real cost of risk, as my dear friend Cecile Weldon says, is actually the missed opportunity. This is the real cost of the risk. And we're at this inflection point in our industry where we need to start defining the risk of the missed opportunity, because we have people who are going to tell us forever and a day, since 1815 to 2024, it's all right, we'll send blokes around with a hammer. It's okay, we understand how this process works. It's sending us broken, it's killing people, but we understand how the process works and we're comfortable with it. It feels familiar, but we need to actually make that change. And we need to start to talk about transformation over disruption, because transformation feels positive and encouraging and optimistic, whereas disruption feels terrifying. And so that's also problematic for brains that are craving safety. Guys, just grab a seat. It's all good. And it's also time to get our own house in order. So here's what I see inside us as an industry, inside our own businesses: compliance and best practice. We need everybody inside the association. Your businesses need to have fantastic data security, cyber security. You need to be following all the policies. But we also need to be walking the talk of innovation and adopting internally. I actually meet PropTechs who basically say, oh no, we don't need to do that. We've always done it this way. We're okay. We've been around a while now. Like, no, we also need to walk that talk. And we need to have better management of bleeding edge conversations. Bleeding edge is terrifying. Inside our street, we need integration and collaboration with our subsectors. So if you're in property, management, you are a smaller cohort inside PropTech. It's really important that we actually start to see each other not just as competitors, but that also as collaborators. There are times where, or if you're in construction, or if you're in residential real estate, we need to be coming together despite our anxiety or competition with the company across the table, because there is more that unites us than divides us, and there is stuff that we cannot do on our own. We need common values and language, and we also need to start to bring in the universities and the research centres in, because we are an inside-out industry. There are so many of you that have domain expertise that have started to started to tech from your knowledge of how the industry works. But there's a whole bunch of resource out there, and we're going to meet some of them today, and it's great to see some of the uni people here today who have been who are externally validating the work that we're doing and are an enormous resource that we need to connect in more. And then citywide, so what does the big picture look like? We need a bigger picture of what's possible. We need a PropTech CRC. I'm not sure Vito was he's coming today, but we desperately need a PropTech CRC, because we need a centre of excellence for PropTech. We need to start to self-regulate, because as we've seen in New South Wales, we will get regulation thrust upon us, and that is not fun, and it's also a complete time suck as an association to try to defend ourselves against stupid regulation. So a really good, it takes 86% of your time to manage bullshit. It takes 14% of your time to create it. It's very true. And we need to work with governments and regulators proactively to solve problems, not to allow them to legislate the edges, because they do not understand this space. They do not understand what's possible. Legislation has at least a 5-year lag. We are escalating and accelerating in the speed at which we are. And so that gap is getting bigger and bigger. And so they are just an enormous anchor on us if we don't start to get that right. Nearly there. Because these are challenges that we can't tackle as individual businesses. We need to come together. So there's a typo, but anyway. So we're announcing Proptech Australia. So we're changing our name from the Proptech Association of Australia because, like all we need to change, Proptech Association was what we intend when we started. We want it to be an association. We are still an association, but we thought we needed to modernise a little bit more. And we're supporting property technology entrepreneurs and their businesses to grow commercial opportunities, personal knowledge and experience, and to contribute to solving Australia's most important property challenges. And we're working as an industry now to create comfort and certainty on technology standards, cyber and data security, data consistency and structure, privacy and data ownership, and integrations and interconnectivity. And I haven't downloaded the fonts for the new design, which Cecile did. So thank you, Cecile. She did an amazing job together with Caroline on rebranding the whole thing. So what's our big vision? What does Proptech Australia stand for? And Proptech Association always sounded a little bit daggy, so we feel like we're moving away from that. Here's our big vision for Australia, or for property. We want to be able to lead an industry that supports the creation of more housing that's better planned, that is delivered to a higher quality, that is built faster, that is more energy efficient, that is nicer to live in, costs less, sold more quickly, supports much bigger industries around it, has easy access to hubs for work, education and play, is deeply connected to community. We want it to be able to be quickly paid off. We want it to be able to be transacted securely. And we want it to be able to support really connected communities and provide agency and security. And when I say agency, I mean that sense of safety, that I feel like I can live the life the way I want to live it, whether that's owned property or rented property. This is our vision as the Proptech Association, Proptech Australia, for what our members are working towards, solving problems that make all of this possible. And so here are the opportunities, because if you go back to those challenges that I identified in the first slide, if we can add additional value to the construction industry of 250,000 homes, if we can hit that shortfall, well, that's $125 billion worth of property built right there. If all of those properties sold at a median price, that would be $224 billion right there. This is all money that is on the table, but no one's touching it yet because we haven't built it. If you took the sales commission of those new properties at 2%, that's $4.4 billion right there. We could house an extra 630,000 people on the basis of 2.3 people live in a property at the moment. And the estimated lifetime value of the mortgages, it would be about 150 billion. Now these are pretty light once over lightly numbers, but this is an enormous opportunity here. And so we're going to work as an industry on how to map, how do we get here? This is where we need to get to. So this is important and perilous work, but it is absolutely crucial in shaping the country that we want to live in and how we want our kids to live, because that $6 trillion worth of generational wealth is coming from the properties of the people in this room that have already bought and owned properties and handing them on to our kids. But we've got less than 5 years to make change, not just make change happen, but make transformation happen. And our time starts now. And so I hope you have enjoyed that. Thank you. If you'd like to join us, if you'd like to join the association at the Proptech Australia in building Bold Habits Die Hard, it's familiar, right? If you'd like to join us, our AGM is on November 27. It's just a virtual Zoom this year because of the forum. We have 3 positions available on the board, and we would love energy, enthusiasm, self-motivation to make it work. So come and see me or John Minns. That'd be cool. Thanks, John.
Yeah.